Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Zach Kazan. I'm the managing editor at Worn and Wound. We have a fun show today. I say it every week, and I realize it's sometimes maybe wishful thinking, but I really do think we have a fun show today, based on the people that we have on the episode today. I'm joined, as usual, by Kat Shoulders, head of content at Worn and Wound. How's it going, Kat?
Great. Glad to be here.
Good. Great. Glad to have you. I'm also joined by the host of the Unwinding podcast,
Nice.
Worn and Wound co-founder and CEO Blake Malin. How's it going?
You're welcome. I'm here to save the show.
We need it. We need it.
Very clearly. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
Absolutely. I wanted, it's important to me to have the hosts of other Worn and Wound network podcasts on the show from time to time, so they can promote their podcast. And because I think this one's actually like worth promoting. Not that the others aren't.
Just keep digging that hole, Zach. Just keep digging that hole.
They're all wonderful. Let's before we do the wrist check, Blake, I was wondering, could you kind of like, for people who haven't listened to Unwinding yet, could you maybe like talk a little bit about what that podcast is all about, and give your little, like a pitch for the listeners for Unwinding?
Yeah, for sure. I have not practiced a pitch, but I'll do my best to make it sound interesting. Yeah, Unwinding is basically a conversation between Zach Weiss, other co-founder of Worn and Wound. There's a third co-founder, James, who has not yet appeared on Unwinding, but it's basically us just kind of talking about our experiences running the business, growing the business, maybe some of the sort of peek behind the curtain of like why we've made certain decisions and how certain things have happened, touching on sort of relevant topics from within the watch industry. Our latest podcast kind of went between a few different topics, but generally sort of focused on like how we maintain a little bit of, or not a little bit of editorial integrity, but a little bit how we maintain integrity, and a little bit just kind of how brands try to sometimes impede on that. And just, a little bit about how the industry works. It's like an opportunity for us to have a more casual conversation that's a little bit more candid, and inside baseball, I guess, is a way to describe it.
Yeah.
And it's also us also complaining probably a lot to each other. This is, if you want to know what the early days of Worn and Wound were like, listen to this podcast and you'll get a sense of it.
Yeah. It's been really great so far. I really have enjoyed listening to it. I think, like there's a couple of things about it that I think really work well. One is, obviously, like you and Zach have known each other forever and just have like a great rapport. So it's like, just like two friends chatting. So it's, that's just always great to listen to. And also, I mean, at this point, I think there are the vanishingly small number of people who've like really been involved in the watch industry for as long as you guys have. So I think that like the input that you have is like genuinely valuable and interesting. And I think people just love that peek behind the curtain. So it's very cool. I enjoyed the recent discussion on, you guys talked about Victoria Gomelsky's recent article, which we can link to in the show notes on this episode, which just like really great stuff about kind of like the push and pull between like the press and PR and brands. If that's the kind of thing you like to hear about, Unwinding,
it's been an interesting process, because I don't think that Zach or James or myself or really anybody at the company, like we try to take ourselves too seriously. And so as we've been doing the business for the last 13, 14 years, like we don't like kind of sit down and sort of say to ourselves like, okay, we have this position on this subject, and like we have this great insight that everyone needs to hear about. So like as we're doing the podcast and sort of touching on these subjects, I think we're kind of discovering our feelings on these topics too. It's not like this super polished conversation, Yeah.
Definitely not. Which is a good thing.
Wow, thanks,
Which
Kat.
is a good thing.
Wow.
Wow.
No, I meant that as a compliment. I like that it's very unfiltered.
Yeah.
And I find that I'm even learning. And does it sound crazy to you when you just said 13, 14 years? Like, that's a long time. Is that crazy? Like,
yeah, I'm so old. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's nuts. That's a long time. And I think honestly, like you saying, people have been in the industry for a long time. Like there aren't a ton of people. And I think obviously like there are people who have been in the watch industry for decades and decades. But I think certainly when you look at kind of like new media, which I guess a blog is kind of old media now, but just sort of new media and sort of the newer crop. Like, yeah, we've been around kind of since the beginning of this new crop of, content creators on watches. And yeah, it's wild. It's crazy. And even just, again, like just having these conversations and reflecting on how things were 10 years ago versus how they are now. Like, the world changes so fast. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully people find it fun and entertaining.
Yeah, I think they do. I think it's been getting a lot of people have been discussing it in our Slack channel.
Cool.
It's been getting a lot of positive feedback. So congratulations on the launch of a new podcast. Always exciting.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So this episode's all about new watches that we've picked up recently. All three of us have kind of, I don't know if you've would say we've kind of gone crazy, just picking up new pieces recently. I feel like that sort of comes in waves for me. And we've done this episode, this idea for an episode a couple of times in the past, but it's been a while. So I thought it'd be fun to get you guys on just to kind of talk about some of the recent pickups and why you chose them. Before we do that, let's do a quick wrist check. Kat, what are you wearing today?
So I am wearing today, in lieu of us talking about new pickups, my Tudor Black Bay pink chronograph that I picked up just a couple months ago, I guess now. And it's been in the safe for a few weeks, and pulled it out today. I like it a lot. I'm actually thinking about switching it over to, I have an Everest rubber strap. I don't know if the black would look good on it. It's got a black bezel, in the black subdials, so I think it might look cool. Just wanted to try something new. And I also I scratch it up a lot when I'm just at my desk typing. So the clasp. So I'm thinking about just putting it on a new strap. But yeah, that's what I'm wearing today.
I like that bracelet so much.
It is nice. I feel it's hard.
Yeah. I have the Tudor Black Bay, the burgundy bezel with that same bracelet. And I've just I've never thought of taking the bracelet off. I have no desire to. Yeah. Very cool. Blake, what about you? What are you wearing?
Sure. I'm wearing one of the watches that I recently picked up. I hope this isn't a spoiler. It's okay to do that.
No, listen.
But I'm wearing my Prevail Onward field watch that I bought at the Wind Up Watch Fair. Actually just got off the phone for a totally separate subject with Matt Smith Johnson, the designer of this watch. I really have enjoyed having this watch. It wears super well. It's very different looking. It's I really enjoy having it.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. I enjoyed seeing those at Wind Up recently. Very interesting take on a military watch. I feel like that's a genre that kind of is sometimes a little tired. It gets repetitive, and this is a very I think unique execution of that idea.
Cool. For sure.
I'm wearing a watch that I'm also prepared to talk about on this episode. It's a relatively recent pickup. I'm wearing my Zeitwinkel 273 Sapphire Fume.
Wow.
That's the full name of this watch. This is a recent pickup. I traded a bunch of watches in for this. It's kind of, I don't really like the term grail piece, but it's sort of it's a watch that I would have had trouble imagining myself being able to acquire a number of years ago. It's sort of I think probably the coolest watch I've ever owned. I really love it. So,
that's awesome.
Looking forward to chatting about that and some other watches that I've picked up in the last few months. It's been a wild ride, I think, for all of us. And uncommon. I usually I'm not the type of person to I buy a couple watches a year, maybe. But traded a bunch of things in. It's sort of it has a cascading effect sometimes. Kat, you want to start us off talking about? I don't know if you want to start with the Black Bay Chrono or another piece.
Maybe I'll talk about my most recent pickup, which was literally last week. So last week was election week, for those that don't know, that are not here in the United States. And I did a little retail therapy because it was crazy. And I bought a Rolex Sea Dweller 16600 from 2007. And this is a 40 millimeter watch. Looks a lot like the sub from a distance, but when you pick it up close, you notice some of the subtle changes. It's a lot thicker. It's rated to 4,000 feet, which is really cool. has a helium escape valve like built into the case, which is also a really neat feature. Not that I'll ever use it, but and then there's no what do you call, like, magnifier over the date, like aperture. Cyclops, yeah. So it's really clean crystal, which I really appreciate and like. But yeah, other than that, it wears a lot like a sub, and it's got a really cool like diver's extension on it. That's unique to the watch. But yeah, it's I think like an underrated Rolex, if there even is one at this point. But it's pretty cool, and again, it was a very impulsive buy. I don't have like a cool story behind it, other than like a buddy of mine, shout out like Belmont Watches, who carries a lot of pre-owned stuff. They just gave me a really, really good deal on it, and I felt like I needed it last week. So yeah, there goes all my Christmas money.
It's a week you'll never forget for so many reasons.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons. Yeah,
it kind of made you want to go to the bottom of the ocean, and now you have a watch capable of.
Yeah, maybe that was some subtle thinking there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
congrats!
Cool.
I didn't know you picked that up. That's great.
We haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah. It's hard to keep track of all the new additions. I've owned that reference. I had a 16600 for a while.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really cool watch. Like I went through like a little kind of like mini like Rolex phase. I had a modern sub. I had a 16600 at different times, and I had a Polar Explorer 2, and the Sea Dweller is the one I missed the most. Like that was, I think, like the coolest.
Mm-hmm. I've really become fond of like the pre-ceramic Rolexes, and I have the Tudor sub too, which is blue and it carries a lot of the same specs, other than the movement, of course. But yeah, there's just something special about, I think, those like neo vintage Rolex models that you can still pick up. Like I know, Blake, you own a 16570 Explorer 2. Like you can still find a deal on those because there's so many of them out there. And they're just like, they're the perfect case. Like everything's perfect on them. Like they just really nailed it.
Yeah.
Without being like too over engineered, and that's what I think they kind of get into nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that piece compared to like maybe the price of, or certainly the price of subs from the same era, but like, do you feel like there's a lot of value there? Like, is it an undervalued piece of the time, or?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think for what you're getting, certainly. Yeah, because it packs a punch. It has a bunch of features that even like the Submariner doesn't have, and I feel like you can get them for cheaper than a sub.
Yeah. I've had my Polar for my 16570 for like 3 or 4 years now, I think, and not that I bought it for the value to go up, but I honestly have expected the value to go up a lot more on them, just because of, whatever, the whole Rolex thing. But just every time somebody sees that watch, they're like, oh, that is such a good reference. It's such a great reference. Like, that's such a cool watch. And I don't know, maybe it went up like $1,000 or so since I bought mine. Like, it's kind of crazy. There's definitely value in those watches to be found. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Very cool. So what's your Rolex count at this point? You have the Tudor sub, you have the Sea Dweller. That's it. Okay.
For the crown. Yeah. The crown and shield.
I find it interesting. The Rolexes you cycled. You've had several at this point.
I have. And again, I've had so many new ones. Like I've had a modern day sub from like 2021. I've had a Datejust, modern Datejust. And they just like, I've had a Milgauss also. Forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. There's so much character in these older references. I think they're a little bit longer lasting in my collection than I think the newer stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a modern Explorer 2 also, or am I making that up? Yeah. Okay.
That one didn't last very long. It's a big watch. That one, I will say, like, I am pretty comfortable with wearing larger watches. I felt like that one was too big for my wrist. Like the modern day Explorer 2.
Yeah. The cool thing about the Sea Dweller that you have is it's big for its era, I think, but it's not that big. Like it's a very like normal sized watch. It's a little bit thicker, but it's very, it feels like a very like contemporary watch to me.
Yeah. 100%.
And I love the way it looks without the Cyclops. Like I'm not it's not that I don't like the Cyclops. I just think like there's something about
it's very clean.
Like the dial on that watch without the Cyclops.
I feel attacked.
Do you? Because yours has one, right? The 16570.
Yeah, and
I've seen where people take them off, though.
Yeah.
I've seen what some people do. I mean, I don't know if you
Chaos. Why would someone do that? They're just so cool because the number's so small, but then you put a Cyclops on top of it, the number's so big. It's so much easier to see.
And that way, when you're like writing a check, you know what date it is for sure.
Yeah. I write a lot of checks.
That's true.
You know,
you're the CEO. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
you're writing checks.
Checks are a part of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
Yeah. Also, real quick aside, and I don't know if we've talked about this on the main podcast. I feel like I've talked about it many times. I think the tradition of congratulating people on buying a watch is just the funniest thing in the world.
It's pretty stupid.
Congrats.
Yeah. It's pretty dumb.
Congrats for spending a lot of money that you probably
It's like you didn't have a kid, you know?
Yeah.
Also, is that worthy of kid? I don't know. That's a can of worms.
Well, and on that topic, I stopped doing. I used to do like the new watch alert posts on Instagram, like the NWA, and I don't do them anymore. I'll subtly post a new picture of something, and then if people ask, I'll be like, yeah, I picked it up recently. But because it is weird when you get all these comments that are like, congratulations, and like, thanks.
I mean, if we're gonna say congratulations when you buy a watch, we also have to say like condolences when you sell a watch. You just be like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Sorry
I'm
for
thinking of you.
I do like to do the new watch alert post because I like the dopamine of getting all the likes and the comments. But I will this is really terrible to admit. I will ignore the comments. Like I won't respond to the comments. Like when people ask like, where'd you get it? Or like things like that. Like I don't want to engage. Yeah. Just give me the likes. Just give me
just want the love and adoration from your fans, but you don't want to engage with anyone.
Exactly. That's a perfect encapsulation of my life motto. Kind of on a similar topic, I have a friend in the watch community who is such a flipper cat. He makes you look like someone who like holds on to watches for life.
I like his already.
When he gets a watch and he posts it in the group chat, we all say congrats / good luck with sale, like in the same post. It's like it's really funny. Highly recommend doing that if you have a friend in your group chat who is a flipper. It's enjoyable. All right, let's get this train back on tracks. Blake, what's your most recent pickup or a pickup that you want to discuss?
Sure. So just real quick, I went to my watch box before we got this podcast to like pull what I thought were 2 watches that were new. And then I was like, wait, no, there's a 3rd watch that's new. And then I was like, wait, there's 5 watches that are new, depending on how far back you're willing to go. If you can go as far back as the summer, it's 5. I guess that maybe I'll just say I made a bit of a flip transition in my collection recently that was kind of big that resulted in 2 watches, like 2 new watches. Since I have so many, can I lump 2 into this?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah.
So I recently got rid of my Batman on a Jubilee bracelet, Rolex Batman. I really like that watch. Someone pointed out after I sold it that it was my most worn watch of last year, according to a video we put out. But I don't know. I think that I just gotten to a point where I started looking at my collection. And I was like, okay, like these watches all feel very similar. There's a real lack of color. I mean, that watch has some blue on its bezel, but it's really, it's a steel sports watch with a black dial. And so I got rid of that watch, and I also I got rid of the watch and I traded it, and I got the new white Speedmaster. So I got the Speedmaster. What do you call it? With the not ceramic, but enamel dial. So, sorry. Yeah. Hadn't seen it in person, but had gotten a lot of really positive feedback from people who had seen it, and I was already an owner of a Speedmaster and love that watch quite a bit, but again, like wasn't wearing it as much because it just was, again, like a steel sports watch with a black dial, and I feel like I have a lot of that. Yeah. So I got rid of the Batman, got the white Speedmaster. Then I also got rid of the Speedmaster because I don't need 2 Speedmasters in my collection, though they did look pretty sick next to each other in my watch box. And there was a point in time where I was like, maybe I should keep them both. I think I will own another like plain Jane like Speedmaster. Yeah. But I got rid of my Speedmaster and I picked up Christopher Ward Belcanto at Windup. And I've talked about this watch twice on podcasts, and both times I named it incorrectly. It's the Firefly.
Dragonfly.
Every time I say Firefly, it's Dragonfly. So I feel like I'm pretty pleased with myself that I moved off of 2 watches with the intention of getting something more interesting, and I think I definitely got 2 watches
Yeah.
that were more interesting than the ones I sold.
Definitely.
So, and the math doesn't math there. I ended up, I got some cash in the trades too. It's not like a
Yeah.
1 for 1, but
Mhm.
yeah, there's sort of 2 new additions to the family. Oh, and I should say the Prevail also kind of came in around the same time,
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. The white Speedmaster, I feel like is kind of the one to have. I think.
Mhm.
I mean, all the
agree.
love to the like OG, but that one is so good. It's definitely like on my like hit list at some point to own. But yeah, the little pop of red on the text on the dial is really nice too. And yeah, I feel like I need to like check yours out next time I'm in town. I don't think I have yet, like in person, really looked at it closely, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's really special. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, it's like all the great things about a Speedmaster. Like, it just wears so great. It's a strap monster. Everything looks so good on it.
Yeah.
The bracelet's great. The
I
one
love those
bummer
bracelets.
is that this one only comes with the sapphire crystal, the display case back, and it comes with the polished center links on the bracelet,
Yeah.
which is not my favorite. All the sapphire crystal and open case back is whatever, but the polish on the bracelet was a bit of a
Yeah.
bummer. I would much prefer the fully brushed bracelet.
Is that what
Before I
your
got rid
other-
of, yeah,
It was fully brushed. It was the
Yeah.
acrylic. Okay.
yeah. So before I got rid of it, I definitely swapped it to see what it would look like, and it's perfect. So,
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, no, it's such a good watch.
And your Speedy went to another worn and wound alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good old Garrett.
Yeah, Garrett is now the proud owner of my old Speedmaster. But
Yeah.
I'm super pumped because it just was like, we got a deal that we were both really happy with, and
Yeah.
he had been really looking for Speedmasters, and I think mine was a really good example of one. Like,
Yeah.
he got like a nice clean one, still under warranty. He knew who the owner was. Like, it seemed like
Yeah.
a very good move for both of us.
No, definitely. He's literally been talking about getting a Speedmaster since the day he started here. And
Yes,
so
he has.
yeah, I'm so glad that he could buy it from you, because it is scary when you're like spending that much money for the first time and getting a more luxury watch, and you're buying it from either Reddit or
Yeah.
forum. So yeah, it was great that he could buy that from someone he knows.
Yeah.
And he was literally like posting on his social media and in like our Slack channel, like sell me your beat up old
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
I mean, there's a certain charm to like a beat up old Speedy, but like for your first one,
Yeah. And
you
took care of
want, I
yours,
think
yeah.
you want one that's like, kind of like vetted a little bit. And,
Yeah.
so I'm happy for Garrett that he,
Yeah. The
was able to-
experience, I'm sure, is much better for him having one that's like really kind of, it's nice. Yeah. Because like you took really
Yeah.
good care of it. I saw it several times, and
Yeah.
it looked brand new almost.
Yeah. I mean, I think it had some, marks from wear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, like I said, it's still under warranty because Omega's got that. I think it's a 5-year warranty,
Mhm.
Yep.
which is awesome. And yeah, I'm much happier for him that he got something that he knows he doesn't have to immediately service. And
Yeah.
it's going to be a whole nightmare and all that kind of stuff, and has the new cooler movement and stuff.
Yeah.
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 And then the Christopher Ward, is that so that's a new edition that we share. I also picked up
Yes.
that same belt.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's weird to say that still. But talk a little bit about the experience of buying that at Wind Up. Have you bought a watch at Wind Up? You have, right? You've bought watches at Wind Up.
I think this is the first. Oh, sorry, that was the second watch I ever bought for myself at a Wind Up. All the other watches I ever bought at Wind Up were for someone else.
Mhm.
Like, I'd be walking around with my mom, and she'd like see something she likes, so I'd get it. Or like I got one for like my sister's now fiance, at the time her boyfriend. So yeah, this is only the second watch I bought for myself, and I'd been eyeing a Belcanto honestly ever since Zach got his. So we got a review unit in. Zach did a review of the very first one. He put an order in for one, and he got one of the first, like the blue ones, that are
Mhm.
limited and you can't get anymore. And that's like, I really like the color of the dial that we got, but I think Zach's is like right up there. Like, it's 1A and 1B in terms of the dials on the Belcantos, in my opinion.
It's sort of like the color that you think of when you think of a Belcanto.
Yeah.
I think, like at least
Yeah.
for me, like I think of that like that blue.
Yeah,
color.
it's a really beautiful blue color, and I think from the time we had the sample for review, and maybe from the one he got, there were some refinements, or just like they had perfected some manufacturing things, so it was even more impressive in person. And so, but the colors they've released just hadn't quite resonated with me. They're really nice, but just not necessarily for me. And I had, full disclosure, been sort of tipped off by someone over there that like, hey, there's a new color. It'll be a tealish color coming out. That's all I knew, but I was sort of keeping my eyes peeled. And yeah, I ran into Kathleen McGivney of Red Bar fame walking down EDC Alley at Windup, and they had a Christopher Ward box. And I said, "Oh, what'd you get?" And they pulled out the Belcanto, and I was like, "They have those?" And she said, "They have them. They have 10. I think this is the third one that they sold so far." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to go buy one." And I immediately went and bought one.
Yeah.
And it's like perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. I love the color. And the watch is just so awesome. It's like, I've never owned a watch like this. I don't know how you would describe it. Like a fancy dial watch. I don't know. Like it's not
sort of just like
horology, but
I think it is kind of. It's like it's a type. It's a it's a version of that. It's there's like an avant-garde kind of sensibility.
Yeah,
to it for
I
sure.
think maybe that's a good way of putting it. And like this is the first watch like that I've ever owned, and I'm really surprised how like sporty and wearable it is. So that's been really awesome, and also how functional the chime is. Like I find that it is very convenient for just like being reminded of the passage of time throughout the day and be like, oh, a new hour has gone by.
Very deep. Very, yeah.
So I bought that watch, and then I ran into you, and you were like, oh, they have those here. And I was like, they have these here.
and then Zach immediately went to go get it.
I disappeared and came back with a Belcanto. I mean, yeah, that was, listen, like I wasn't planning on walking out of Windup with a new Belcanto, but like I, like you, had also kind of, been wanting one, but I'm not inclined to like put my money down and then wait like 7 or 8 months or a year or whatever. Like I just have like I think an aversion to that, and that's sort of like what held me back. But just like the prospect of like having that like very cool colorway like available now, for a watch that I wanted anyway. And also there's like just something kind of fun about like buying it at Windup, and I don't think that needs a lot of explanation. I think every like watch collector can probably like understand that sort of dynamic. And yeah, it was fun. I wore it through the rest of the weekend, and really kind of like bonded with it. It's such a cool watch. I really love it.
No,
I love this, like it was like kind of secretive, but like not really secretive, and it was just word on the street is Christopher Ward has 10 of these. You have to go over there and get one. And they went fast, like incredibly fast. I honestly was very tempted myself because like you, Zach, I hate waiting for a watch. And that dial is absolutely stunning. It's my favorite version of the Belcanto. I think like just the blue is so dynamic. It's like kind of green and then changes over to blue. And they really nailed that colorway. And it's going to be, I don't know how many they're doing, but I imagine it'll be really popular.
I think it's just available at the showroom and at like watch shows like Windup, and I think don't quote me on that, but
okay.
I think it's like a special color for like for the showroom and for events and
that's cool.
And things.
Awesome.
And they've done that color and a similar kind of like availability with other references in the Dragonfly blue color, I think. So there's something kind of like built in that's special about it. So cool. Well, I guess I can talk a little bit about my my Zeitwinkel.
Yeah.
So this is the Zeitwinkel. You're laughing at the name. The name's funny. It's kind of
it's like a very like I bet my Wookiee from The Simpsons.
Yeah,
my Zeitwinkel.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to be able to forget that. It's the Zeitwinkel 273 Sapphire Fume. It has a the 273 is a watch that they make that it's kind of like their flagship watch. It comes in a bunch of different dial variants. It has obviously like it tells the time, so like a 3-hand watch, but it also has a power reserve, small seconds, and a big date for writing those checks at 11 o'clock. So this one has a sapphire smoked dial, which makes it really special. And it's just the first time like I took it out like into the light, like into like the daylight, I really realized that it's like having a bunch of watches in one, because like it really changes like color depending on like how light's hitting it, and it's a totally different watch like outside in the sunlight than it is like in like in my home or like indoors or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really dynamic, and I love that about it. And the secret sauce to it is the movement is made of German silver. So, which is a somewhat rare material for movements to be made out of. A. Lange and Son still makes movements out of German silver. Jaeger LeCoultre used to make some of their higher end watches with German silver movements. They've like basically stopped doing that. And I think there's like a handful of other independent brands that use German silver, but it has this like warm, kind of like luster to it that's like very different than like any other material, really. And it's just like seeing it through that crystal is just like a really cool effect. So I love it. It's just it's a perfect size for my wrist. It's about 42.5 millimeters. Which like kind of puts it like, it's sort of like, if you think about it, like without like the size considerations, it kind of looks like a dress watch, but it, like the size makes it wear like just like a really kind of like good size for an everyday watch. And that's kind of like how I'm wearing it, as sort of an everyday watch.
That's
and
you said, Zach,
yeah,
it's
sorry, go
like
ahead.
the smoked, this kind of
Yeah,
gray.
so it has like like the dial really kind of shifts between like tones of gray and also like this like amber color. That's really cool.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
fun to photograph.
I've never seen it.
It's incredibly cool. So this brand is not a brand that I've been like super familiar with for very long. They've been around since 2006, and they came to market in 2010 after developing their own movement and prototyping it. And I met one of the co-founders, Albert Edelman, at the Geneva Watch Days earlier this year. And I had kind of been like circling the brand for a little bit. And I was like really looking forward to this meeting to kind of like, get a sense of the collection and get a sense of what the brand is about. And I just really, connected with it. The thing that I think really draws me to the brand is that they kind of, they're not like beholden to like the normal watch release kind of like hype cycle. Like they don't release a new watch every year at like Watches and Wonders or whatever.
Yeah.
They kind of like, they have like their core, like set of watches, and they just sort of like make small refinements and make them to order. And they don't, the production numbers aren't huge. I think it's around like 1,000 watches a year or something like that. And they just kind of like really focus on like doing what they do to the best of their ability, and not focusing on like the sort of like this new sort of like watch market hype environment that I think we all kind of find ourselves in. And I found that to be like really refreshing, because it's more about how I think like how watches sort of like should be. Like you own like one nice watch.
Yeah.
Forever. Sort of like the ideal of like, like a nice watch. Obviously like we all, are insane and have a bunch of them, but I love the idea of like this brand has like a good idea of like what it's able to do, and they do it at a very high level.
Yeah.
And they don't feel the need to kind of like keep, like generating a lot of, kind of like manufactured, interest. So there's something like that I just found really refreshing about that.
Did you get this through Collective? Did you order through Collective?
So I did. I ordered through Collective. I traded a bunch of watches in. I traded a watch into Collective and sold a bunch of other watches to kind of like fund this, because I was really all year I've kind of just been sort of thinking about like the watches I own, and do I want to like own them long term? I'm always thinking about this, but I sort of realized like I have like several watches that I knew I could sort of let go without feeling too bad about. So I traded in my IWC, the Seratanium Pilot's watch, which is a wonderful watch, but just like, not really to my taste anymore. I just kind of, decided I was ready for something else. And I sold several others, just on the forums over time, dealing with a lot of
I'm sorry for your loss
and whatnot. And thank you.
Sorry for your loss.
Appreciate it.
Thoughts and prayers for your
circle of life, So yeah, I really kind of like reshaped the like the watch box to kind of to acquire this, but I really I feel like I made all the right decisions, because I don't miss the watches that I that I sold or traded, and I'm really happy with the Zeitwinkel. I think it's like I said at the top, it's like probably coolest watch I've ever owned. I really love it.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Would-
it's very unique.
Yeah. Would you say, if you don't mind me asking, but is this like sort of the highest value watch you've ever owned? I wasn't sure how expensive that watch is and like what the experience is like adding to your collection, like the highest value piece, or like, do you think about the watch any differently, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so that was one of the things that made me kind of realize it was time to let go of the IWC, is because like I would see the IWC, sitting in my watch box, and I would realize like that is the most valuable watch like in my watch box, but I don't love it the most.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes about like, should your most valuable watch be like your best watch or the watch you like wear the most? And like, I think there's a lot of different ways to kind of approach that. But if you have the most money in a watch that isn't a watch that you like, that isn't a watch that you love, then like that's I think a sign to to move it along. So that's sort of like how I how I approached sort of figuring out like what to let go and sort of like what to replace it with in terms of like value compared to like the other watches that I own, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I sort of felt the same way about the Batman. It's just like it was a lot of value to be in a watch that, again, I enjoyed, and it's a beautiful watch, but like I think I'm much happier with the few additional watches that I've added. How diverse they are. They all serve different purposes. Like,
yeah, I feel the same way. I've done the same with several of like, the modern day Rolexes that I was like, this is like 2 or 3 really cool watches in this one watch, and I'm not really wearing it all the time. And I'd rather have these other like cool watches in my collection or camera gear. So they've gone to one thing or the other. But sometimes you have to kind of like reevaluate your collection and get rid of stuff.
Yeah, it makes it hard to enjoy a watch too when it's like when you feel like it's overvalued. Like, so I have a friend who owns a Royal Oak, just like a Royal Oak Jumbo. Like he bought it at retail years ago, and like that watch has like increased in value like by like a lot, and it's come back down a little bit, but it's still like much more valuable than it was the day he bought it. And like he's not like a wealthy guy, he's like a normal guy who like saved up for that watch in a period like before the hype. And like he's like, we've talked about how it's tough for him to wear it, like he's got a family and kids, and it's like he's thinking about like the value of this watch and like what it could like like what it would mean to his family if he sold it. And but he also like he genuinely loves the watch, and it's just like it's a very complicated thing.
It's weird to not think about that, and it's it'd be hard for me to disassociate that, like the cost of something of that value, and like actually enjoying wearing it. I would just be worried the entire time. Yeah.
Yep. Well, listen, being worried about watches, if you're worried about the watches, you shouldn't be. Like, if that's a sign that you've done something wrong, if you have those worries. Kat, you had some other pickups. What's next on your?
Yeah, I got quite a few. Since we're talking about collective, I guess this is a good segue. I did pick up what? Yeah, this was at Wind Up New York. The Collective Fears Redcliffe Onyx dial. And so I had actually put a deposit down with Collective because I was going to get the new jump hour from Fears. And then I've decided that actually I'm going to do a custom jump hour with Fears. So I'm working on that with them. But I had this like awesome credit with Collective now. And so I was like, I had to shop for something while I was at the fair. And I honestly thought they sold out of these. I thought they were all gone. And Asher had one more back there, and I couldn't help it. It's really cool. I've never owned a stone dial. This was also impulsive, just saying. And it was cool to grab the last one available. They only did 20 of these. So super clean watch. Very like, I don't know, it's so different for Fear. It doesn't look like a Fears watch in a good way. It's just very different for them, very modern and sporty. And I really, really enjoy it. And it's definitely a favorite in my collection right now for sure.
Yeah. You have like a little mini Fears collection.
I do.
Going. Yeah.
A little boutique starting in my collection.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because most of them, two of them are custom Fears, and then this one's a limited edition, and so they're all like really special and unique, and ones that will never go anywhere. Especially my custom, and then a third, custom on the way. Hopefully next year will come to me, but. I love, like, I don't know. I feel like Zach would, in a way, Zach Weiss, because like he gets to design all these like really cool watches, and it's fun. Like, I love this. I could do this all the time. Like, design my own watch. But they all have their own unique stories and stuff tied to them. But it's really exciting and fun thing. And I love working with Fears. I have a lot of respect for them, and I love what Nicholas is doing with the brand. And it's just cool to see them every year kind of grow and grow and grow in popularity. And they absolutely killed it at Wind Up too. They were so popular. Yep. I couldn't even go over there honestly to buy the watch most of the time because they were so busy. I had to kind of push people aside. But I really lucked out in getting the last one.
Yeah, that's very cool. I love that piece. It's stone dials are definitely like having a moment. I've always thought stone dials were pretty cool. I got a chance to see yours real briefly. In New York at Wind Up. It's it's a very, very cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
What can you say like what you're customizing about the jump hour?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So my dad unfortunately passed away last year, and I inherited his 55 Plymouth Plaza, which is a very old classic car. It's a baby blue and it has this cream color leather interior. And I would love to keep this car forever, but it requires so much work, and it's also very difficult to drive. It's old brake system, and it's like they call it like a 3 on the tree. So it's not like an easy car to just go for like a quick Sunday drive in. And I'm going to have to sell it at some point or give it to another family member to kind of keep sake for us, just because it's just sitting in the garage now. And I don't think that's fair. I think someone should enjoy the car that likes it. But I wanted to I started thinking about having a watch that was like paid homage to the car. And when I saw that dial, that jump hour dial, it looks like a car register, like a dial in a car. And so, we're doing some of the same colors, and the watch will end up being sort of like an homage piece to my dad's car, which is really cool. And we're working on matching like the paint color exact. And they're spending so much time. It's going to be really awesome and totally worth it. And Nicholas pays attention to all the fine little details that you can imagine. And so it's been really cool to work with their team, and they're really great too. Their customization team over there at Fears. It's going to be like a really cool and special piece.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that'd be
that's
super
awesome.
cool.
Yeah,
you should have one of
cool
those
tribute.
like padded leather straps that kind of looks like a seat of a car made in like the same leather or something. I think that
would be cool. Yeah, it would totally match too, because it's kind of got those like little ribs. In the seats. But I'm really excited about it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's great.
And this is your second custom piece with Fears, right?
It will be technically, it's my second custom piece. We, me and Catlin were gifted on our like first year of 10 and 2, the Quartz Red Cliffs. And they had customization on like the case back and stuff that they did for our little podcast. But this is like, it'll be my technical second piece.
Very cool. Very cool. That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Blake, do you have another recent pickup you want to talk about? You had so many in your.
I know. It's just really living the life over here. I guess the other like recent one is I picked up the full loom dial brew. This is the metric. I was at his studio. Retrograph. I'm sorry. Retrograph. I was at his studio. We were doing some work with him, and they weren't out yet, but he had sort of the batch there, and I was like, oh, I got to get one of those. That one's awesome. I've wanted one of the retrographs for a while, and there's something that feels like the loom dial. I don't know. It feels very kind of like 90s to me. Like, I don't know why. It kind of reminds me of like a fossil watch from the 90s or something, but like in all the good, best ways. And then also it's cool to have a dial of a watch just like really glow like crazy in the dark.
Bright. It's so bright. Yeah.
no, it's wild.
crazy.
Like the loom application on this is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what he used, but it is crazy bright.
Yeah, no, full loom dials are the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love it. It's great. It's a super cool watch, and love John and want to support him however I can.
Yeah, those
Very
designs
cool.
are so good. They're like, I mean, everyone likes them. Like people in my family and friend group that see a brew, they're immediately drawn to them without being like sort of in the watch industry or enthusiasts. They're just like
Mhm.
good looking watches, which is probably why he's so successful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
imagine
makes a
that.
watch for everybody. But yeah, I
Yeah.
love like there's all these like vintage cues that he pulls from with the retrograph and the name itself, and obviously the metric too. And then along with that is sort of the little tiny, coffee aspects of the watch that are just very subtly there. It's not, overbearing in any sort of way. But that one's really cool. Congrats on that.
Yeah.
On that video.
Thanks. It was a long road. I sacrificed a lot.
I was there when he got it, actually. Yeah, because that was the day we were shooting John for our little lookbook piece that we did for him, and it was a super fun day. And he actually had some other cool stuff out there we can't talk about, but yeah, some really exciting stuff in store for Brew.
Oh man, I don't know about the new exciting stuff. I feel like I'm missing out.
Let's just put it this way: you can drive it. I won't say anything else.
Oh boy, what a tease. Yeah. No, that's very cool. I love a loom dial. I have a couple loom dials. They're fun. They appeal to like the child in us, I think. That just likes to see things glow in the dark. What's more fun than that?
Yeah.
There's probably things more fun than that. I don't know. It's a fascination.
Well, I will say that I brought or my sister came to Wind Up and brought my nephew who's 8. And I think this proves that there's nothing cooler than loom, because he was kind of walking around. He was like very like, whatever, this is kind of silly. And then we got to the Zarek booth, and they had little blacklight flashlights on the table. And once he realized he could point that at a watch and make it glow, that's all he did for the rest of the day, was just run up and point it to watches and be like, does it glow? No, that sucks. Oh, does it glow? That's awesome.
Sucks.
So there really is nothing better than a watch glowing. So I have the evidence.
We should just that's a great idea. Like we should gift kids like little loom lights as they come into Wind Up, and then that's like something for them to do. Oh, and then we could have like secret like stickers that were just like loomed on the walls and areas, like find
that'd be fun.
Code.
That'd be great.
Does someone have to peel those stickers off the walls at the end of
But no one will know they're there if they don't have a black light.
That's true.
And the next like art show they turn the lights down. There's all these like watch stickers on the wall.
Yeah.
That's
when
fun.
we did our laser tag watch with Zodiac, for the launch party we did, I went and bought like a cheap pair of white sneakers, and I splatter painted them with like blacklight reactive like neon paint. And I did this in my living room, and like we still find little flecks of this stuff around the house. And like I don't make a habit of like going around my house with a black light, but if I ever have one in my hand, like there's splatter everywhere in my living room. You just like can't see.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like crime was committed. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. A crime of fashion.
Awesome.
Well,
it's true.
Oh man. I have one more watch I can talk about. It's kind of along similar lines, I think, as the Brew, Blake. It's the Arcan Alterum Year of the Dragon edition. And the reason I say it's similar is because it's a small brand run by a person we know who I think some of us have become friends with and made a connection with. And Kenneth Lamb, he's been on the podcast. We'll link to the episode where we had a really nice conversation with him. He's just a really really smart guy with a lot of really cool ideas.
Yeah.
His watches are like incredibly interesting and creative. And I felt very lucky to have snagged one of these Year of the Dragon Alterums that he debuted at British Watchmakers Day earlier this year. I think he planned a run of like 25 or 50. I don't know, not a huge number. And after British Watchmakers Day, he had some, that were not claimed. So he like put a post out on Instagram, and I said, like, dude, if you're willing to, to sell me one, I'd love one of these Altrums. It has this like, kind of like dark maroon, sort of like textured dial. It's really cool. It has this like very cool, like matching red strap. And like the case shape is really funky. I just really like it. And it has this like very unusual, GMT kind of like functionality where, it's honestly like it's a little bit tricky. It's like you kind of have to like set the like your time in between your like reference time and your new home time, and then let the like current time like catch up with the
weird. Okay.
Yeah, so you have to like kind of like set it backwards and then forwards.
That's
kind
cool.
of.
Interesting.
But it's like the reason it's cool is because it's like it's his like solution to this problem that he identified with the Miyota movement. This is like he designed this pre like Miyota 9075, where we have the the local jumping hour. So he just kind of like saw a problem and decided to like figure out like kind of like MacGyver a way
cool
so it's like it's this totally like kind of like homemade GMT solution. And I just think that's really fun and really cool. And like the watch is a lot of fun to wear. I've literally just had it, for like less than a week as we sit and record this. So it's like it's brand new, but like very impressive watch, and just really happy to be able to support like a new brand run by someone who is just like a really nice guy, like one of like the good people like in this community. And that's something I think about like more and more. And honestly, like it kind of even like relates to the like Zeitwinkel in a way. I want to support like brands and people that I like, like if I had met Albert in Switzerland and like he was a jerk, I probably wouldn't have wanted to like buy one of his watches, but like he was very like warm and gracious and like really took his time with me. And so like I was like, really happy to kind of like buy into his brand. And like same with same with Ken and Arkin and John at Brew and like so many other people that we encounter.
The list goes on and on. And I'm the same way. I sort of like buy into a lot of these brands and own a lot of them, the Montas and the Astron Banks, because those guys are so great, and have become close with them over the years. But it's also a blessing and a curse because we have bad experiences too, just working in the industry. And you're like, well, I'm never going to buy your watch brand because I don't want to. So it does suck because when you're outside of it and you're just a customer, you're not faced with that. And you can buy a watch plainly because you like it. And there's watches I like and would really love to own, but like literally I can't do it. I can't do it because I've had bad experiences with the people there, and it stinks, but that's the way it is.
That would be a really fun challenge that we could never like put on the blog, because it would be rude to people, but we should all have to buy a watch from the person we hate the most and just live with it for a few months and see if we learn to love it. But no, I totally agree with you about like, one, about Arkin, and two, about like buying watches from people that you meet. It's funny, well, when you mentioned Arkin, like one, I've wanted to get one of those for a while. I saw them in person for the first time in London at the British Watchmakers Day. Zach and I were able to go. And he had the dragon one, but I sort of, my preference is for the gray or the black dial that he makes of that watch. And they've been like long out of stock. I don't know if he gets them in stock and they just sell out, but I haven't seen them in stock. But it's funny because I hadn't really met him before. I know Zach had some communication with him, and we set up like this meetup the night before British Watchmakers Day at this pub in England with Kenneth, and he sort of helped organize it and sort of secure the space. And it was just one of those like really awesome kind of like experiences you have working in the industry, where like we're there, we end up like I think it's David from Garrick, one of the owners of Garrick. So David was there, and like he's such a cool guy and like such a interesting and like very funny character, and like just like we're hanging out with both of them and a bunch of these really sweet people from England who are watch nerds, and like we all got really drunk and closed the bar out and ran around, tried to eat food, and like we're ending the night at some godforsaken time at a Five Guys, like inhaling hamburgers and French fries with like Kenneth and David and, all these random watch people that I'd never met
That
before.
sounds
And it was like
fantastic. And
yeah, it was awesome. It was like, and I would like to buy an Arkin. I would love to be able to buy a Garrick one day. I'm not quite there yet, but like, yeah, it's like, I would, that's all reason enough to buy one. Plus the watches are really cool,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah,
they're
I do think
awesome.
it's important to think about, especially like once you've been in the hobby for a while, to like think about like where the money is going and like who you really want to support.
Yeah.
I wrote about this a little bit in the I wrote an article about the Patek Philippe Cubitus and sort of like that watch has sort of like got me thinking. Lots of things have gotten me thinking about this, but that's an example of a brand that like I wouldn't want to buy into because of some of the things that Terry Stern has said that are just, I think, like kind of like are shutting people out. Like I want to spend money with people who are like welcoming people into the hobby and into their brand as opposed to like the opposite. So
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a fun, a good note to end it on. We
That was a lot of
talked about a lot of, that was a lot of watches. We might have a problem. I think, I hesitate to ask if you guys have your eyes on anything. Maybe we can save that for another podcast. I'm tapped out. I think I'm done for a while. But
I will say,
thank you guys.
I was just gonna say, I will say we have some pretty bonkers limited editions coming out end of this year and next year, especially, that I think are kind of be my focus in terms of like watch consumption for a little while.
Yeah.
They're gonna scratch the itch. So yeah.
So many teases in this episode from the host of, what's your podcast called again? You've changed the name a couple times. That's
originally Worn Out, but then apparently everyone was offended by that. So now it's Unwinding.
Unwinding. I was joking with Zach. You should change it every episode. You should just have like
fine
a
with me.
Yeah, it's just like a running joke that the name changes. Yeah.
That would be great.
That'd be fun. Well, I'll let you guys go. As we record, it's Friday night. I think you guys probably want to get your weekend started.
Yeah, it's getting dark in here. I had to like turn the light on.
It's so dark in here. Yeah, we're in that time of year for sure. Kat, thank you. Blake, thank you. Really a pleasure to chat with you guys about our shared addiction for buying watches. And thank you to everyone for listening. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on the next Worn Around podcast. Until then, take care.